It's these two guys.
These two guys.
It's these two guys.
Hey, welcome to These Two Guys. I'm George Henry,
And I am Larry Richardson.
and we are here for another episode of Fun and Games. We're not, I'm not going to say we're not going to do politics,
Yeah,
but we may, something may go in there, but we're going to do something a little fun. I mean, I know early on in our productions of these, we kind of introduced ourselves, so I thought we could ask each other questions and see if we can come up with some stories about, our origins or where we came from. It's this is our origin story.
Yeah,
This is like superhero stuff. Yeah,
that's right. It won't involve any kryptonite or gamma rays or anything like that.
No.
But we'll try to make it interesting.
Or a poison spider.
No poison spiders. Well, I grew up in the city, so it'd be probably roaches.
Yeah.
For me in Hunters Point.
Tarantulas, where I came from, out in the desert.
I almost would have preferred tarantulas to roaches.
I like tarantulas. Have you ever had a tarantula walk on your hand?
No.
It is so cool. They don't bite.
No.
No, they don't, unless you piss them off. They'll bite if you piss them off.
I'd be that one person that find that one tarantula be angry and bite me for no damn reason. That's not my. I'm the guy that walks with a group of people and the fly bugs around me.
Yeah.
No matter how clean I am, I'm clean, but it will find its way around me.
Well, I was more scared of the horned toads than the tarantulas, because the horned toads, they shoot a poison out of between their forehead.
Ooh.
And if it gets in your eye or something, that's what they do to ward off, predators and stuff like that. So,
Ooh, yeah.
little lesson there, a science lesson there for you, in case you're wondering.
I guess living in the Hunters Point, the roaches and the ants weren't so bad then.
That's right. And today, during this episode, we are going to choose the winner of the $500. That's right. We're going to make it rain for somebody.
Right. That is
Now, the
right.
thing is, if you are listening to this and you were one of the people that gave name suggestions, you're going to have to listen to the end, because you have to respond to us in order to get paid. We're not going to seek you out. So that's the one thing. So if you were one of the ones that did it, make sure that you watch all the way to, maybe Larry said we'll give you, if you don't want to watch all the way through, we'll tell you where it is.
Yeah. But we'll be watching though.
Yeah, we'll be watching it. So you want to ask me any questions, or you just want to,
Yeah.
How do you want to do this?
So I think most people know that you have a background in radio.
Yeah.
You basically have your own radio station.
Mm-hmm.
And for anybody who lives in Florence, knows anywhere you go, you're going to hear George's voice
Right, pretty much. Yeah.
everywhere. What got you into radio?
Well, but before I get into that, I'll say, and if you're watching out there, you can download our app. KCFM Coast Radio is the oldie station. KCST Coast Radio is the modern station. You're also on Alexa, and you can get us online too. So I just thought I'd throw that in there. Well, when I was young, my parents moved me from New Jersey to Arizona. So I did most of my schooling in Arizona. Went to Catholic school for 12 years. Well, minus a half a year. So when I got to 7th grade, we had a school that was like a horseshoe. So you had 4 rooms on one side, 4 classrooms. Then you had a breezeway. You had a little office area there where they had not the Xerox machine, whatever that was, the little
Copier.
with the blue,
The old-fashioned-
the old
Yeah.
whatever they call those
I
things.
don't remember the name of those.
Can't remember those.
Yeah. If you do know, comment
post it.
Yep.
Comment in there.
Yep.
Let us know what it is, because you put the paper on the roller and you roll it through. So then they had a little courtyard office there, which kind of sat up above over the courtyard, and it was just one big window, and that's where the loudspeaker was, where they would do the announcements for the school. Then you had the cafeteria. Then you had 2 surplus rooms. And then you had 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade along the other. So it was like a horseshoe. So at lunchtime, I got this great idea. I asked one of the nuns, I said, can I bring some records and a record player and put it in that little office there, and hook it up to the speakers and had a microphone. And so I was doing that in 7th grade. And I was announcing the songs, what were some of the songs that were there? Brandy, You're a Fine Girl. 1974, this was. 73. So I was 12 years old. doing this. And just had a blast doing it. I had a friend of mine, George Toto, who would get in the booth there with me and do it from time to time. And we just have fun with it at lunchtime. And it was kind of like, I just kind of knew I wanted to somehow be in entertainment, you know. And so when I got out of high school, I kind of, you know, played around for a while like most do before I went to college. And then when I got to Bob Jones University, please don't hold that against me. Anyway, so I went to Bob Jones University and I went to the Preacher Boys classes. And I really wanted to do something. They had a 100,000 watt FM radio station. I really wanted to do that. So I was dating a girl that was working for the radio station. I went over there one day to pick her up. And a guy named Willie Thompson was there. He was the program director there. And she introduced me to him, and he heard my voice, and he goes, "You ever thought about being in radio?" And I was like, "Yeah, I thought about being in entertainment, and you know, I'd done some acting and stuff like that, but radio was, you know, it seemed like the easy way out." He goes, "Well, I'll give you a job. Here, all you got to do is come back and do a tape for me, so we have the tape on file." It's like, it's kind of weird because you either know what he sounds like or he doesn't, but. So I did that. They put me to work. I was like working Saturdays and Sundays to start off with. Then they put me on afternoons for the week. And then just kind of went from there. And eventually, I mean, I had some places in the way that because my father had passed away. So I went back to Arizona to work for my mom in the restaurant business and helped her with that. And then I finally got back to Nashville. I moved back to Nashville at some point and got a job in radio there, kind of worked my way up from a receptionist to the marketing director and the news guy on there. And then it kind of went from there. I went to North Carolina, worked there for a decade, then moved out to Oregon, worked for KXL in Portland for a little over a year, then moved down here when I had an opportunity to get a job here. It was part-time, it was just afternoon DJ, but they paid me pretty decent, and I did some contractor work on the side. Went back to Nashville for a year. This is a long story, I know. Went back to Nashville for a year, worked with a company there, got offered a general manager job with the company I was working for there in one of their radio stations. Then I decided, well, I wasn't happy. I wanted to get a divorce. The day I got a divorce, I got a call back here from Oregon again saying, "Bob's retiring, Bob Snedden. I want you to come back." This was John Thompson, the boss at the time. And I said, "Well, what do you pay me?" And he told me, and I was like, that was like 3 times what Nashville was paying me. I'm like, I don't know how you can afford this, but when do I need to be there? He said, "Bob's last day is the 30th of April. You need to be there May 1st. This was April 7th.
Wow.
I had to get divorced. I had to get packed up. I had to get a truck and trailer.
Find a place.
I had to get all the way out here, find a place to live. Luckily, during all this time, I was doing all 3 of those things. I was figuring out, found a place here in Florence, Oregon to live, and it was fairly cheap. Had to pay her some money for 13 months. I made an agreement to pay her money for 13 months. Could more than cover it with the money they were paying me here. So then came out here. And then over time, it just worked out. And one day the owner came to me and he said, "I want to make you a partner. You know, I want you to buy into the radio station, make you a partner." And so my wife and I said, "Yeah, we'll do that." And now we're kind of on the roll to buying the rest of it from him when he retires in about a year and a half.
Nice.
So that was my career. Yeah, sort
Nice.
of. But you know, I did restaurant work in between there too. So
It shows. You're a very good cook.
well, thank you. Thank you. So that's me. That's how I got into radio. I won't talk about my marriages and divorces now. We'll do that some other time.
It's not anymore.
Yeah. But I'm happy now. I'm very happily married. I couldn't be more happy with my beautiful bride. So have to say that. Now I know you're from the San Francisco area.
Yes.
Originally, or were you born somewhere else then moved there?
Born and raised in San Francisco.
Yeah. What was that like?
It was, for me, my childhood was a little difficult because we moved so many times.
Right, I remember you telling me that.
And a lot of it was because, and any family members watching, correct me if I'm wrong here, my grandfather's wife owned a lot of places in San Francisco.
Rentals.
And my mom didn't make a lot of money. She was a seamstress at Levi's. She did a lot of the jobs too, but she was a seamstress at Levi's, and they didn't make a lot of money. And so, in order to help out, our grandfather and grandmother-in-law would say, "Okay, you can stay at this place, until it became rented. Now there's other places available. Now this place is available." So we moved probably. For me, it seems like maybe once a year. We were just relocating to one place after another. Beautiful places. I mean, they had some really, really nice properties in San Francisco. So I went to one school after another. Finally, for most of my juvenile stage, was spent at Hunters Point, which is projects in San Francisco. One of many different projects in San Francisco. So it was just very generic for me growing up. Even being in an urban environment, it was very, very urban. I mean, if you saw a crack deal go down the street, that was just Tuesday.
Yeah. What year were you born?
70.
70. Mm-hmm. So in the mid to late 70s, early 80s, it was pretty rough time.
It was some very rough times. The crack epidemic was running rampant, and I see a lot of black on black crime, and it was a crazy time to be in San Francisco where we lived. So when you get to the avenues, you're like, what is this?
Different world.
Yeah. What is grass? I see a lawnmower. I've never seen a lawnmower before. You grew up in these urban areas, and school was pretty typical. I went to school at that age where they were busing the inner city kids to the rich people's schools. I went to Ulloa Elementary, which was in the avenues. Went to Herbert Hoover Middle School, which is also in the avenues. A lot of my friends went to Potrero Hill, which was kind of middle. Potrero Hill was more of closer to our neighborhoods, not necessarily
different
the
mix
projects.
of students.
Yeah. More diverse probably there. In the avenues, the schools we went to was just, we were just bad kids. Most of it was just really, really bad kids. We get into fights and things like that, because that's what we kind of grew up doing. Mm-hmm. I think it was kind of a good idea. I think it was Feinstein who was really pushing for that at the time. Really good idea, I think. We had a lot more exposure to things. I learned to play the violin. I actually played the violin. I was actually really good. I wish I could keep that dexterity, but it's gone.
We could use a fiddle player in the band.
I would love to learn. Last time I picked it up, I felt like Edward Scissorhands. Just like there was nothing connecting there. But learned to play the violin, learned clarinet. Took drama classes at J.E. McIntyre High School.
So what was the ratio of black to white in the schools you went to? It was,
McIntyre was kind of hard to gauge. I would say it was almost 50-50. That was a very, very diverse school, high school.
Because I don't know how to phrase this, but you don't seem very racially sensitive.
No, and I think a lot of that came during my adulthood, though.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, as a child, I didn't know any difference. We hung around. Primarily, everybody was black. Our family, our friends, our neighbors. My mother had one white lady as her friend. It was like her very, very best friend. Her name was Marion, and those two were thick as thieves. And that's the only white lady I knew, as at least till I was maybe 10 years old. So I didn't get to experience it.
Well, it's like in my school, in the Catholic school, we had one black family, the Burtons. There was Charles and Christine and John were the three. And, of course, in the Catholic school, everybody gets along. We didn't have any, there was nothing, none of us were like, oh, black people are in our school. It wasn't like that. And growing up with the parents I had, my dad was friends with everybody.
Yeah.
He was a cop. He was also a politician, so he didn't really, he didn't have anybody that, number one, he didn't have anybody that didn't like him.
Right.
And he reciprocated. There weren't too many people he didn't like.
And I think that's what kind of helped me is that, my mom, I didn't grow up with my father. My father and my mother split when I was 4, and they got back together when I was 24, which is crazy. It's like
20 years.
Yeah, 20-year gap. I mean, almost, well, I wouldn't say to the date, but it's exactly 20 years. They remarried, which I think is still one of the greatest mysteries in the universe as to why they did it. But even when they divorced later on, they were still best friends, and I think that's what kept them together. But it was that love I got from both my mom and my father, even though he was, on the other side of the country, that probably made me where I wasn't so rigid when it comes to learning new things and race and understanding right from wrong and just being objective and listening to things from both sides. And I think that taught me a lot of analytical skills and just interpersonal
Out of the box
skills.
thinking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Did you have a male role model in your vicinity when you were growing up? Was there anybody?
My oldest brother, Robert, he was in the Navy. My brother was pretty rough. He was a protector of his family. You never mess with his family.
So he was the man of the house.
He was the man of the house. And he's one of those guys that, you can say certain things, you can do certain things. Don't touch the family. Don't touch my brothers. Don't. And people would fight, and he'd come over, he'd pull me aside and just have a conversation with me about it, and just kind of open my eyes where just like, don't always respond with anger. Sometimes there's ways you can deal with things without being angry. Or you see this person over here and you see this homeless guy over here, and, you think crazy bum, because that's what the other kids would probably say. But, understand that guy probably had a really hard life, and think just things like that he would always teach me. Just kind of made me, I'm not going to say I'm a great person or anything like that, but made me feel like I'm a better man.
Well, it's interesting. And I'm sure there was, like you said, you saw black on black crime back in those days there. But when you look at the way Hollywood depicts the culture, you almost never see that positive side of it. You do every now and then. They'll have a story comes out where somebody comes out of there and he helps lead others out, and stuff like that. But a lot of it is so much, especially in the last 20, 30 years with the music and everything that's come along with it, and the gangster atmosphere, the gangster lifestyle and stuff like that. You don't see a lot of that good positive outcomes in the movies or in television.
No, and I think that's one thing that was missing. I mean, you watch movies like Menace to Society and Boys to the Hood. There is a positive message in those movies, but it doesn't resonate. But you got to go through all
the negative to get to the positive.
Right. You're so bombarded with, and for us, for kids like me that grow up and bullets whizzing past your head and all that type of stuff, this is like a horror movie but it's because it's real. You watch Menace to Society.
It's like
I don't know
PTSD.
If you exactly. That character O-Dog, I don't know if you ever saw Menace to Society. He was a young, dreaded kid who shot the store clerk and everything. He was the hothead. I've known O-Dogs, and so you see him on the screen, and it's just you're desensitized to it because it's not like fresh. It's not something that's I want to learn all about that. It's like it's just another Tuesday.
So is your father and mother still alive?
No, they both passed
away.
Yeah.
And how old was your dad when he passed?
Oh, I want to say 89.
So he was older.
Yeah. So my interesting story. My mother and my father both had 2 different ages. My father had a different age because he wanted to get into the military when he was actually younger, and my mom she wanted to be younger. So her age was different than what we grew up knowing also, because at some point she just felt like having a younger age was better.
So I want to ask you, because I have my own answer to this, because my father died when I was 23. So it was quite a shock for me. Did you get to have conversations with your dad and find out like about his life and about his experiences? Or was that not something, were you not in that kind of close?
No, we were that close. So again, my dad was almost 20 years. He was not there. But I won't say not there. We would talk on the phone. He would send money from time to time. But I think just growing up, learning about him, even my mom, it wasn't like something I was interested in. I was more interested in spending the time in the moment. Not that I was aware that I was choosing that over just trying to learn their history and everything. The stories would come out about Pine Bluff, Arkansas. I would hear stories from my mom about how they would get into a fight at school and they'd have to walk up this dirt road, and other parents would come out with little switches like, I heard what you did, and they'd spank them. They don't even know who these people are. And I get to hear all those funny stories.
Funny stories, getting hit with a switch.
It's funny now.
Yeah, okay, wow, yeah. I was gonna say, oh, well, I wouldn't be laughing.
Yeah, no, it was funny now. I mean, I think they even laughed after they got home, but and I get to hear, the stories of my dad and his, time in war and everything like that. We would share those stories, but it didn't come until much later on. That's like after my mother got married again, because he moved from South Carolina back here to California after my oldest brother had passed away. So after he came back, then we would spend more time together. We would go fishing. We would, and by him coming back, helped me build a close relationship with my other siblings, because I have 3 older brothers from my mother's side, and we have different fathers. And then on my father's side, I have an older brother and 3 older sisters. And even though they were in my life, it was kind of peppered. I'd see them from time to time, occasionally go to a barbecue, or we just pass each other or something like that. Once my father came back, it seems like that was kind of the glue that pulled us all together. And I learned more about my sisters, learned more about my oldest brother. And then I learned more about my dad. So when he passed, it was, obviously it's hard. It's always hard. But I felt a little relieved for him, because he didn't have a long period of suffering. He was sick. He didn't have, some people years. My mom went on for years with dementia and things like that before she passed. And it was the hardest thing ever to deal with. Yeah. My dad had onset dementia. I think it was just right before he passed. So he had a very small stint of it. And I'm thankful that he didn't have to spend the same time that my mom did going through what she went through. He passed away first. But I felt, he had a good life, and he did wonderful things. I think he was always, he always portrayed a positive role model to all of us. He wasn't out there committing crimes and things like that. He was a really good guy. So I think I got to learn a lot about him, even stories about my grandmother, his mother, and all my uncles and aunties from back south. And I heard a story where my father, he went back to South Carolina to go visit his mother, who was still alive, I think in like 2009. And my father's the oldest of all of his siblings. And she still had an outhouse.
Wow. Whereabouts in South Carolina?
Oh, I can't remember the name. It's a rural area. From
Near the beach, or is it central? Or
I think it's more central.
Palmetto.
I wish I've never been back there. I wish I did. Those I do regret, not going back and visiting my father's side of the family. And I think it's because of his absence, and not blaming him for it, but because of his absence, it wasn't so. But because even with my mom, I still didn't go back to Pine Bluff, Arkansas either. Right. So it probably would have been something I never would have done.
Well, I call Tucson my home, because that's where I was raised. But I was born in New Jersey, and there's, and when I say, wanting to talk to my dad about the history, I'm talking about the things that I didn't get to experience. I really feel a kinship to that hometown, even though all my relatives are there. I mean, when my parents moved to Arizona, it was my dad and my mom and my sisters and I. It was his brother and wife and 2 daughters. And that was it. That was all the family that came to Arizona. And everybody else stayed back east. So I pretty much didn't get to know any of that family, even though I knew them when I was up to almost 4 years old, 3 years old. I knew them, and then we went back and lived for a year and a half when I was 5 or 6 years old. So I did get to see them a little bit, but I missed that whole culture. I missed that whole, it was a different world. My dad worked with the Italians there. My godfather was the mayor of Bloomfield. He's Italian. My dad, in fact, funny story, and this is the story that my dad was able to tell me, is we always wondered why we moved to Arizona. Well, my dad was a salesman. My dad was a go-getter. My mother was already working in the restaurant business in New Jersey. And a couple of lawyers came up to my dad one day, and he was in politics. He worked for Peter Rodino, who was the chairman of the subcommittee that impeached Nixon. So he worked for him. A couple of attorneys came up to him one day, and they said, we want you to open a restaurant. And, we'll back you. They were Italian lawyers. And my dad wisely said, no, we're moving to Arizona. So you can insinuate from that anything you want to. But what I learned from that was that my dad knew some people.
Yeah.
Knew some family members.
Yeah.
And decided that it was probably best for us not to be there.
Not to get involved.
But then, you hear the songs about the East Coast beaches and Palisades Amusement Park and all those places there. I got to see when I was a real little kid, and then of course they all, were closed down and stuff like that. But I kind of miss that connection with family, and because of that, I don't think I really continue having that connection with family today. I mean, even my kids, once they were grown, I was like, hey, you're on your own.
Yeah. It's harder. I mean, we have our family get together. Our one of our younger cousins, lives out in the East Bay in California. Will occasionally, actually once a year, we put on like a family reunion. And it's just sad to see like less and less in attendance. We didn't get to make it last time either because, we had driven to California like twice just prior to that. And it was just, just couldn't make it. That in between work and other things. But we used to have the family get-togethers were like the highlight of any day. All your cousins are there. I see my aunties and my mom and, whatever. And we're all sitting there eating. And it was like, every time it was like a holiday. If you get more than 7 or 8 of us in the house, it was a holiday. It was like some big festival, always a lot of food and drink and fun. And, no one was fighting. And then it just slowly starts to die off. And after my brother passed, my cousin and my brother, my cousin Eli and my brother were those two, you would think they were born together. And I mean, they were thick as thieves. They always side by side. Once Eli passed, then my brother kind of, he was on his own. It was like Batman and Robin, those two.
And then Robin dies.
And Robin dies. And then Batman he's more grudgy and, things like that. And then when my brother passed, when he got sick, he had a stroke and he was paralyzed. And it seems like the glue was gone, and we stopped getting together so much because if he wasn't pulling us together, it wasn't happening. And as only he could do, it seems like, now my younger cousin is, he's doing the same thing. He gets everybody together. We have a big barbecue and it's a big production and stuff like that. So it's just harder because everybody's moving farther and farther away.
Well, we've had a lot of family reunions back east, but I have not, either I didn't know in time or I didn't know at all. But my sister would go to almost everyone. My oldest sister graduated from high school in New Jersey, and then she lived in New Jersey after that. So she didn't really come to Arizona until the late, probably 82 or something like that. So it was been a while. So she kind of lived there. So she was still in touch with all the family. She knew all the family members. Now I'm just getting to know some of my cousins because of Facebook. It hadn't been for Facebook. There's one cousin of mine, he likes to do the same construction stuff. That he likes to remodel bathrooms and remodel houses. So now he'll send me pictures. This is what I'm doing. What do you think? And then I'll send him, so this is what I'm doing. What do you think? But yet we could probably meet each other in a town hall somewhere and not recognize each other.
Yeah.
That's kind of, and that's sad. To me, that's sad. I mean, I envy people who have a big family history.
Yeah.
I can go back to that.
I do now. I don't think I knew what I was missing
until
when I was younger. I think now, and I try to instill that on my kids. It's like, go to the family reunions, meet your cousins and stuff, hang out with them. And, they're not strangers. Even if you've never seen them before, they're not strangers. They love you without even knowing you. And it's important. I think if I didn't have the close family connections I have now, it would be hard for me to cope with a lot of things in life. Just one incident where I may have gone to my auntie, and she's the one who gave me words of wisdom and coached me through it. Without having that, my auntie or my cousin in my life, or whoever it was that gave me that advice, it could have been catastrophe. It could have been a tragic moment for me.
Well, one of the things that bothered me about it is that the idea of, well, I'll separate that out. The idea there's the family that you're born into and then the family that you choose.
Yes.
The family that I was born into, I really don't know. And I don't have any like strong feelings, even though they're like, first cousins. I mean, they're just, they're people that I should, have strong ties to, but don't. And it's just, and I guess it doesn't really feel weird to me, but in my subconscious, it seems weird to me, because I never had it. So it's not like I didn't do, and I guess that's probably why I never like, I don't get real close to things, I kind of keep a distance,
Yeah.
Hey, that's great. How you doing?
Yeah.
I mean, you and I talk more than I've talked with anybody in years,
Yeah, I know, and it's great. Again, it's like more like the family you choose.
Yeah.
I mean, we have great times together, and I do think that being close to, like you said, the family that you're born into it is very, very important, and it is something that everybody should, especially if you're younger now.
Thanks. Now make me feel really bad. Thanks.
Well, no, because I mean, I had it, but I didn't have it. Like I said, I didn't grow up with my sisters and my oldest brother, and didn't discover them until much later on. I knew they existed. Like I said, we interacted once in a blue moon when I'm 5 or 6. It doesn't resonate because when you go home, you're going home with your brothers. These other people you just met, they say they're your sister, but that doesn't mean anything because they're living somewhere else. Then when you get into my 20s, I call my sisters. I'm driving now. I can go places. So now I can go over there and spend some time with them, go over to their house for 4th of July, for a barbecue or whatever, talk stories, tell anecdotes, and give me some history on their mother, Bobby, who I had met a few times. And it just kind of makes you feel a little bit more whole, but I miss it. I do miss.
What was it? Think back to the day you packed that suitcase, put your clothes in a bag or however it was, suitcase, whatever, and you're leaving home for the first time. Do you remember what that felt like?
Oh yeah, that was an interesting story. That was almost life or death.
Really?
Yes. One day walking. So Hunters Point Harbor Road had a lot of these long walkways. Sometimes they weren't very well lit. And I was going to go see my friend, and I left my house. I walked to this one spot that was kind of dark. And when you're there, usually, we didn't have a lot of like random shootings or anything like that. If somebody came for you, they came for you. It wasn't, spray and pray type deals.
It wasn't like drive-bys shooting all the houses.
And they've done that, but not as often as you would think, right? But this guy walks up to me, pulls a gun, puts it right up to my face, and he's asking me, he's like, "Where's my shit?" And I'm like, and I know the guy. I can't remember his name for the life of me, but I know the guy, and I'm trying to talk him down, and he's just like, "Where's my shit?" And he's completely sweating, and I know the guy was a crackhead,
And you didn't have his shit.
I haven't
you didn't
seen
even know
him.
what.
I didn't know what he was talking about, and he's got a gun to my head, and he's getting more and more frantic, and after he did that, he sit there and he put the gun down, and he finally calmed down. He goes, "Man, I'm so sorry, man." He said, "I'm tripping. I'm just tripping. Eyes are beaming and everything." And I turned around. I went back to the house. My mother was gone. And I had a car, so I was driving, and I was dating my son's mother at the time. And I called her, and because we couldn't live together, because she was still staying with her mother, I was still staying with my mom, and her sister and her husband was like, "Hey, come over and stay over here," And I moved over to Mission Avenue, and packed up everything, got in the car, and just left. Told Mom I'm staying over there.
And that was the kind of catalyst that made you go. Was that day?
I mean, because
it could have gone another way.
Yeah, could have just, I mean, if he was on a low, still getting high, I mean, who knows what would have happened if he was peaking, at that moment. And around that time, I'd seen a lot of shit. I'd seen a lot of stuff happen, and it's just like at that point, it's like I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. A good friend of mine had died. He had asked me to take him. He wanted to shoot some dice. And some of the people who are watching this will know exactly who I'm talking about. He wanted to shoot some dice. And there's dice games on the street. But usually, I guess, on 3rd Street, we had bigger dice games. And that's where he wanted to go. And I had a car. So he's like, hey, can you take me over to go shoot some dice? And I said, yeah, in a little bit. I'm going to head home. Because I just got home. I'm going to go do some stuff here. And I'm going to be right out. And I'm in the house, no concept of time. I don't know how much time had gone by, but I didn't make it up there to go drop him off. And I hear pop, 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 up the street. Then you see your cars peeling out, and then they're like, well, somebody just shot Chucky. And I'm like, wow, it's over a dice game. And I'm just thinking to myself, if I had just picked him up and took him to 3rd Street, like he'd asked me to, things would have probably been different. And I know it's not my fault, but it's just like that could have been me, was it a vendetta? If I was sitting in my car and he's sitting next to me and they came over and they shot, it could have got me, or something. So it was just like I couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't do it anymore. And
see, that's so interesting because there's nothing that I can think of in my life that would even compare to that. No drama or trauma like that. And it's like, I'm sympathetic and empathetic, but yet I don't understand, how that feels to be in that kind of situation.
I grew up in it, and I'll be honest with you, I don't understand it.
Right.
And maybe because I never had that mentality, right? Like I can never visualize just hurting someone, just, for whatever reason. I lose a dice game. I can't see trying to take your life for it. You're talking crap to me, I'll just walk away, and that's one of those things, again, where family has kind of got me through. I remember going to my auntie or whatever and telling them certain things, or my mom. It's, this person said my mom's a bitch. And my mother would say, you know what? When she does, they tell you that again, tell them thank you. Tell them thank you, and that was my lessons to deal with that type of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and talking about, not being around family, I remember I visited New Jersey when I was probably 20, maybe 21. And I was actually going there and going to New York to see my friend Debbie, who I went to high school with. She was working in New York at the time. And I stopped at my aunt's house, my great aunt who was still alive, and my cousin was living in the house, and we're all kind of hanging out and we're kind of getting to know each other a little bit. And he goes, hey, we're going over the bridge, going to Harlem. You want to come with us? I'm like, what are you going to do over in Harlem? He goes, we're going to score some cocaine. Mm. And I'm like, my fear right then was like, I didn't show it, but I was like, no, I'm good. I have no desire to go watch you score some cocaine,
Anytime it can go bad.
Yeah, and that's probably the closest thing that I ever came to as far as, that kind of trouble goes. But
yeah. And then eventually, I got out of that and moved to Sacramento at some point and lived there, and that was just completely peaceful until I moved to North Highlands. And that was not nearly as bad, but it got bad. I mean, it was getting pretty bad. I can remember one day, I think it was a baseball game. I think it was like maybe the World Series, and it had ended, and someone celebrated by shooting a gun in the air. And I remember telling my daughter to get into the closet, just like hide in the closet, because I thought somebody was I thought it was like a shootout,
right,
But
just somebody celebrating.
Just somebody celebrating.
How stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, yeah.
But
well, you weren't in San Francisco for the big one, were you?
Yeah, I was.
Oh, you were?
I was in '89. Yeah. I was on, which is now Cesar Chavez. I think it's Army Street, Army in Valencia. my son's mother's mother had lived there, and my son was just a few months old, and he and I were in the house, and back when I guess apparently I watched baseball back then. Now that I remember, because I was actually watching.
Well, the Giants are playing in the World Series.
In the World Series, yeah. Which I don't watch baseball now, but I watched it then. And I remember sitting down watching it, and I see those guys talking about the earthquake, and then I remember the building, and we were on the top floor. I think it's like a 7 or 8 story building, and it was just like standing in the middle of a seesaw. And I remember running in there, grabbing my son, and then after I grabbed him, I was like, "Well, now what do I do?" Right?
Because the building comes down, 7th floor. Yeah, that's going to be bad news.
But yeah, I was there, and it was for those who haven't seen it, it was apocalyptic. It was like we thought end of world, end of days type thing. And I remember where we actually lived it was called West Side Court. It was also projects, but it was only like a city block big, and from our front door, and we had like a little walkway there. From a front door, you can actually see the Bay Bridge. Wow. And at night, you can just tell the city was nothing but black, just completely black, as far as the eye can see. And it was the scariest thing ever.
Here's an interesting tidbit to that. The day of that earthquake, in the backyard of the house I was staying with, which was at the time my mom and dad's other house, had a swimming pool. Mm-hmm. And you could see, this is in Tucson, you could see the ripples in the pool from the earthquake.
From the earthquake in San Francisco? Wow.
It was amazing how, it was just like, it just kind of started rolling. The water started rolling in the pool. And I'm like, whoa. And that's before I knew what was going on. I was just like, what's going on? And then you see it on the news and everything.
It was pretty scary. But yeah.
So did you see Nobody 2?
No, not yet.
You haven't seen Nobody 2?
No, not yet. And I missed it because I know you did trivia.
We did trivia that night. But I had a couple people tell me it's a little more humorous than the first one. Yeah. And it's fun. Right. So I gotta get out and see that movie.
I have to too. That was one of those sleeper movies. When Nobody came out, I felt like I was a drug dealer trying to push drugs off on people for the very first time, tell people to watch it. I was like, you got to watch Nobody. I was like, yeah. I was like, no. I'm telling you got to watch it.
Well, because, when I saw Bob Odenkirk was like an action hero, I'm like, he doesn't really come across as a former CIA operative or stuff like that.
Assassin.
Really kind of just a dad kind of thing. And I guess that was the whole point. And, he had given up the life and, he was just a plain old dad until they came for him.
Well, he did a movie called, it was a little earlier, called Operation Endgame. You ever seen that?
No.
That's pretty interesting.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's got a lot of comedic actors in there playing that same type of role. And it's a pretty funny movie. They all get trapped in this like underground lair and stuff. But yeah, I won't ruin any more than that. You got to watch Operation Endgame. But I will see it. Yeah. I will see it. We should do a review on that.
Maybe we should, we can, I don't know if Deb would want to go see it, but if we can get Deb to go and Susie to go, we'll just all go and kind of hang out, take notes while we're there.
Yes. Yeah.
Because we do other things. We like talking about movies, entertainment. If you've seen any of the earlier ones, that's kind of what really motivates us as far as our juices flowing and stuff like that. We really love the entertainment aspect of that. And I got in touch with a gentleman today who is not a producer, but he's more like a liaison between country and Americana music artists. Mm-hmm. And we got a couple people lined up for that. I got a guy, William Michael Morgan, who had a #1 hit back a few years back called I Met a Girl. He's going to do a podcast with us. Jeremy Scott has a syndicated radio program called Into the Paranormal. And I'm going to try to set a date for him where we can bring him on through Riverside FM and have him come and join us there. Now that I think you and I would really like asking him questions about that, because he's really been into that for a long time, and he followed all those late night radio hosts at midnight that used to talk about alien abductions and UFOs and stuff like that. So he's a pretty cool guy to talk to.
Yeah, and if you guys are watching some of our earlier podcasts, you'll know that I have this kind of connection with the paranormal. So
yeah, he's an alien. We'll have to talk more about that in the next one.
Yes.
So we had, so I got a piece of paper here in my hand. See if I can read my own handwriting. We had 5 people that we chose out of all the people that made comments about our names. We took the 5 best. Because if you don't know this, in the beginning, when we first started this, we were looking for a name for our podcast. Well, we decided on it. Well, I guess I kind of decided and Larry agreed. I guess that's how it turned out, didn't it?
Worked out perfectly.
But that's fine. We're happy with the name. You're happy with the name?
I am very happy with the
Okay, there
name.
you go. These 2 guys. So we had these 5 people we chose out of there. Now, again, you have to be watching. If you want to collect your money, you've got to comment on the end of this video. We had at Eric Barron 4486. All right. We had at Jennifer Brinkley 9089. We had at Bree Burr BREBUR. We had at Cryptic 95823. I'm guessing that's the zip code.
Yeah. Actually, now I think I know who it is.
Oh, now you know who it is?
I think I know who it is.
Okay. And then we have at Luna Laughs Out Loud. Those are the 5 people. And I think Larry's got 5 pieces of paper here that we put numbers on and crinkled them up. So this is going to be our 5. I almost thought, we ought to just give each one of them $100, but that wouldn't be fair to the person who actually wins. So Larry's going to pick a number here out of random. They're all folded up. I can't see what number it is.
I'm not looking. I'm not looking. I'm tossing the papers around. And I have.
And the winner is.
If I can open up a piece of paper.
Oh, yeah. What's the number?
The number is 4.
Number's 4. So that's at Cryptic 95823. At Cryptic 95823. You're the winners of the $500. So you need to contact us. Should we give them a time frame? Give them 10 days.
10 days sound good.
10 days sound good?
Yeah.
That'll give them time to, in case they're not up on the latest podcast. So
because if you don't, then we'll have enough time to create another podcast and then let you know that you did not get your money.
So if you quickly respond, then we can tell everybody if you want. If not, and 10 days goes by, we'll do another podcast and we'll give it away to somebody else. Yeah. So there. All right.
I still got more numbers.
Yeah, we got more numbers. You got anything to close out with?
No, it is, again, a fun time, always bringing this entertainment and engaging with you. So we would like for you to engage with us as well. Comment, make suggestions. If you have an interesting story or an interesting lifestyle or maybe even a stupid human trick you want to share with us.
Upside down pineapple.
Yes. Yes.
We'll talk to you. I'm curious about that lifestyle.
The upside down. Oh, the upside down
swingers.
pineapple.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
I'm really curious. I mean, I don't want to be part of that. I have no desire to be part of that, but I'm curious about someone in that lifestyle. Yeah. So if we could get somebody from that world, would love to put you on camera and, and talk to you about that because it's pretty interesting.
And if you're, in witness relocation, we can always blotch out your face and change your voice if need be.
Yeah. If you're black, we can turn you white. If you're white, we can turn you black.
Yep.
I don't know why I said that.
It may not help you.
It may not help you. They still might recognize you.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm George Henry.
And I am Larry Richardson.
And we are These 2 Guys. Have a great week.